Howdy good folks, how are you? It's tasting day on the Benspo Cluster 8 clone. I've got myself a big enough window to sit down and suck on two high 8% beers and hopefully make some sense while I do it. But anyway, that beer there, she's nice and gold. I've got a little bit of frost on the glass. That's putting off the colour a little bit. Let's just clear a little bit. That's nice and deep gold, coppery gold. Let's get a real deal pouring here. Now, this one was brewed back on brew day was, and I haven't bloody, I've shut the I'm bloody bad at doing that. Okay. Brew day was the 5th of April, so fuck off. The bloody fly in here, I said he just won't die. I think I sprayed him 3 times and he's still bloody kicking. Fucking ridiculous. Anyway, yeah, 3rd of April, so let's call it 2 months. Just for the sake of not arguing about it. It's been in the keg since the 3rd of May. So it took a long time to get bloody from the keg, from the fermenter into the keg. You know, various reasons. Just the timings just didn't work, and I went away and I just didn't get to it. So it sat in the fermenter longer than I would have liked. It cold crashed for about, well, where are we? 26. From the 26th of April to the 3rd of May. So 8 days it cold crashed, which is longer than I certainly planned. But that's happened. But anyway, there they are, poured side by side. The real deal's she's a little bit lighter, bit more gold, bit less copper. So like that's a little bit of a rustier version. The real deal, as it stands, is probably a tiny bit more highly carbonated. It's got a slightly frothier head on it. It's showing some clarity with a little bit of murkiness. The old Cooper's cloudy but fine, where the clone it's not crystal clear by any stretch, but it is fairly, actually it is pretty clear. It's hard to tell, there's a darkness in the colour. But anyway, so this fellow I dry hopped on day 5. I think it ended up being day 6. Day 5 by the recipe. Yeah, dry hop was added on day 6. The recipe, if you're linking the recipe from the original brew day, which I'll stick up there, the recipe stated 24.3 grams of each. Now this is a 12, not with 12 litres, aiming for 14 litres. So don't look at that, don't take numbers too much. Look at the actual recipe, go into the recipe link in the original brew day video and go to the full volume recipe to get your grams per litre. So I cut that down to 21 grams each, so I end up with 12 litres in the fermenter, not the 14 I was aiming for. Our starting gravity was 1 point under target. Target start was 1087. We started at 1086. We finished at 1020, which was exactly where target was. So we've actually finished up to 8.7%, not the 8.8. Yeah, missed it. Missed it by that much. So that's all good. That's it. A little bit darker. Anyway, let's get on with tasting it before we start pulling it apart and work out what's going on. I've had a couple of these now. Okay, and the hop nose on the clone is very sickly sweet. That's a bit lighter and more vibrant. It's got the same, the note's the same, the underlying aroma is the same, but there's a big sweetness this. And I think the reality is, this has ended up just sitting on the hops for too long, and it's picked up just quite a larger amount of hop presence. But I'm going to start here. Now, that being said, this is not the freshest cluster 8 by any stretch. It only comes out every so often, and so that's the freshest I can get. As I said, out of the last 4-pack I bought, I'm not going to tell you what the date on that, but I do know from having a side-by-side with a fresh cluster 8 and an older one. I'll link that up if I remember to, and put it down in the description. But this beer, just due to the size of it, holds up fairly well to a bit of age. Yeah. It's real big and tasty. There's big malt, big hops, some sweetness. Yeah, pine. There's very overripe rock melon. What I think really coming across as like a guava sort of a note as well. But it's the fruits are tropical but very, very ripe. That's a lovely beer. Anyone who watches the channel knows it's, a beer I like a hell of a lot. So we go here. Okay, I've got to say, I've been drinking this and I thought, oh, this is really, I'm thinking, oh, this has missed the mark. It's just not really gonna handle it. But it's actually a lot closer than I thought it was. The flavour's very, 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 very tight. Now, John Spencer, whose recipe this is, who I didn't let him know I was doing the recipe. He has commented on the original video when he discovered it. He was pretty rapt that I'd done it. And he commented that he's been very happy with it. And I can see why. It's certainly ballpark. And not a big ballpark, it's a fairly small ballpark. Certainly within, I comment quite a bit. I say so. It's in the, it's not so much in the ballpark, more in the car park of the ballpark. But the flavours are certainly there, and they are similar. There's good sweetness in the malt. Those tropical flavours are there. Like I said, I think that dry hop's been just there for too long, and it's not grassy, but it's just become a lot more intense. So the flavour's the same, it's just a lot bigger. It's almost like there's an extra 50% of the hops in it than what there is over here. And I assume I said that's that long thing. It's meant to go on day 5. It should have come out, yeah, it probably should have been in the keg within 5-7 days at that point. Not what turned out to be somewhere like 20 days later. So, taking that into account, I think this is really close. Okay. That is actually a lot sweeter and heavier than I do sort of remember. And this is the problem when you try to remember beers that you don't drink like regularly. You can lose that full recognition of what it is. So that has come up closer than I thought it had. Now, so I think hop-wise, I don't think there's any issue. I think there's a colour issue here. Now, I just want to have a look at the actual recipe. And that's my recipe. Now I think I've changed this to allow for my stock on hand. Let me just get back in here and actually get John's recipe. See what I can find, if I can find it. I think I should have to do that. It should just be here. Okay, there's John's there. Okay, no, okay, so he's got the schooner malt. Okay, I've used Voyager Munich. So he's used Voyager Pale Schooner at the same percent. So that's not the issue. Okay, here's where the colour is. John in his recipe has used Baird's Munich malt at 9.9 EBC, at 5.9%. I've used Voyager Munich, which is 17 EBC at the same amount. And that very easily is going to be the colour difference without a problem at all. Carapils, again, the carapils in this fella, in the copy, in my recipe, is a little bit darker. I've used Weyermann, he's used Brees, 1.6 EBC, 1.3 EBC difference. So again, a little different, a little bit darker in my recipe. Cara Munich 1 at 1.2%. Exactly the same. We both got a Weyermann, however you want to pronounce it. But yeah, so the Munich and the Carapils, just been that little bit darker, have created a little bit more colour in that. But it's not really noticeable that much in the flavour. I don't think it's noticeable at all, really. Yeah, it's hard to say whether that extra bit of maltiness is really noticeable because of the hops. But reality is, looking at those two recipes, if you want to create it closer to, like obviously, closer to the real deal, get the right malts. The reality is, could have played around a little bit and dropped the Munich and the Carapils, and brought the schooner up a little bit just to keep the gravities the same. John's brew is 14.4 EBC. Mine is 15.2. It's like 0.8. So it's not much, and you can, like I said, you can see there, it's very little. Why the actual real deal is that little bit cloudy, I don't know. That could be the yeast. I used not bloody BR. I used WLP 001 California Ale. John recommends using, he's used USA 5. His recipe, so whether that would make a difference, I don't know. What Ben Spoke actually used, who knows? But again, that's really insignificant. One thing I'm going to point out, that clone select thing a lot bloody better than the real deal. But again, this is a lot fresher. But as far as it goes, I'm going to say that with those minor little adjustments, allowing for that, I believe John Spencer has so close to nailing this recipe. I don't want to say nailed it, but he's bloody, he's gone very, very close. The water chemistry, I think, is fairly good. I don't know how his compares to mine. Yeah, that's not the actual body. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how the actual final water numbers work out. And that's only going to, I use his amount, so it's only going to be a case of variation from your source water. But yeah, that, as brewed by Little John, allowing for actually getting off the hops at the right time, is a cracker of a beer. John Spencer gets 2 thumbs up from Little John, I'll tell you, because that's a fucking hell of a beer. And to get that close, I mean, like I said, I'd have to rebrew it and get those malts just right, and yeah, not be so, well, wasn't my own fault, but actually get it out on time. And I think you bang on the mark. If you want to make yourself a cluster 8, I mean, let's be honest, if you've drunk a cluster 8, then you want to make it. And if you've had a cluster 8 and you don't want to make it, you shouldn't call yourself a home brewer. Because that's probably a bit rough. Look, in all honesty, I always said it, that is a fucking intense beer. Double IPA, 8.8%, big IBU. The IBU comes in at, well, it's actually 60. It's not that big in the whole big picture, but it is an intense beer, and I always said that I think it's one of the best beers in the country. It gets knocked around because it's too much beer for most people. So if you've not tried one, go and get yourself one. And then after you've got yourself one, jump on, grab the recipe and brew it yourself. Because hey, it's a good looking beer. It laces like an absolute beauty. Yeah, and it's just good. It's good. Yeah, hats off to you, John Spencer. Well done, mate. This is a beer that's going to see me through winter and into autumn, because it's not going to get drunk in a real quick hurry, or a real slow hurry. Can you have a slow hurry or a quick hurry? Is there any fucking difference? It's like being late, isn't it? Once you're in a hurry, you're in a hurry. Once you're late, you're late. But yeah, that is a good recipe. Brew it as is, make the adjustments. Grab John's, well, that's not John's. Grab John Spencer's recipe. It's on Brew Father. That's, I don't actually know. Let me check in the library exactly what it's put in. Because I know you fuckers are going to be too lazy to go back and look at the original Brew Day video and find the link. It's not coming up under cluster 8. What the fuck's it come under? Okay, yeah, no, I don't fucking know. Right, that's really good. Okay, I will stick John's recipe in the description. If you go back and look at Brew Day, I think it may have both recipes. I can't remember for sure. I'd have to bring it up. Damn, look, that's right fucking there. Don't be so freaking lazy, John. Just do it. Okay, I've just got one recipe link there, so I would assume that's going to be what I brewed. So that's going to be this with a little bit darker. So I will link John's recipe with that slightly lighter grain, so you can get about making this shit. And when you do, tell me about it. I want to know. I want to know when you make it. I want to know when you drink it. Because that's a fucking good beer. Righto folks, anyway, comments, questions, down the bottom. Request for a dancing partner. Put them down the bottom there. Subscribers to the channel, thank you very much for your support. If you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Ring the little bell. Get notified when there's a new video so you don't miss anything. Patreons, thank you very much. If you're interested in Patreon, there's a link down the bottom. Jump on that. So those guys on Patreon that keep the channel going, keep me doing experiments and playing around, doing this sort of thing, copying these sort of beers, these big beers that people want to fucking copy, and testing out these clone recipes that are floating around to see if they're any good. This one is a winner. Get onto it. Give me a thumbs up. If you don't give me a thumbs up, give me a thumbs up on behalf of John Spencer. John Spencer, to you, sir, well done. And for now, that's Little John. So until I see you again, we're brewing beer, drinking beer, or talking beer. Good brewing. Later.